Going live, it's going live. And now you are live.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's discussion. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up and also share the video. As you all can see in the thumbnail, I wanted to talk about the media tonight and how the media has a way of using its power to distract us. And I also wanted to talk about something else that I feel that many of us may have been experiencing, having a similar experience this week with everything that's been happening in lieu of the situation with George Floyd. A lot of people have been very vocal on different social media platforms, expressing their opinions and thoughts on the situation. And I think that, the general consensus about the entire situation is that it was totally uncalled for, totally unlawful, and, just an all around horrendous situation. However, there are people that don't necessarily agree that the situation is what people are making it out to be. Candace Williams being one of those people in particular. She had some very strong talking points that she came out and said about the situation. But I don't particularly want to focus on Candace Owens because I feel like Candace Owens in many ways is a distraction. And, I don't really want to give too much attention to her. Although, even though I don't agree with her, I sometimes, will just try to be open-minded and listen to some of her talking points, which, at the end of me listening to her, a lot of times, a lot of the stuff she's saying is very, very contradicting. So I can't agree with her. But, this week, especially on Facebook, I've been seeing a lot of back and forth and a lot of different conversations that people have been having about how they feel about the situation, especially, the protests versus the rioting. And, how some people feel that in order to tackle this situation and get progress, that the rioting is doing more harm than it is doing good. And you have people that disagree with that. So there's been a lot of back and forth as far as what is the right way to tackle this situation. And I feel like when it comes to that, there's so many people butting heads because the one thing that I see that a lot of people are doing is they're talking at each other instead of to each other. And they're not really trying to listen with an open mind to a contrasting point of view, which I'm guilty of that just as much as the next person. Sometimes if I don't agree with what someone is saying, I block them out and I just don't want to hear what they're saying. But more and more, I'm starting to realize that by me doing that, I could be missing out on, some very important information because I chose to block someone out because I don't like what they're saying or I don't like them as a person. And I feel like, especially as us being adults, we really need to be a little bit more mature than that. We need to be more open-minded and we need to be able to listen to a contrasting point of view so that we possibly can learn something that we didn't know. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that's something that's easy to do because it's not easy to do at all. It's something that I've been working on within myself to be able to not just totally block people out when they're saying something that I don't agree with. But the one thing that, I'm trying to do and I'm getting a little bit better at it day by day is I'm listening to information with an open mind, regardless to who it's coming from. And I gotta say, I learned a lot of that from my husband because he listens to a radio station that drives me crazy. I don't like the tone of the people's voices. They all sound like they're sucking helium, and it's so aggravating. But one day I just decided to listen to what they were saying. I let my guard down a little bit and I started to listen to their talking points, and I was like, some of this stuff that they're saying really does make sense. I don't like the way they sound. Their voices are annoying to me. I don't want to hear them. But when I decided to just listen to them with an unbiased ear, I was able to learn something that I was not aware of before. So, that's pretty much what I'm trying to encourage people to do. You don't have to like someone to listen to what they're saying. You don't have to agree with someone to learn something from them. And, just today on my Facebook page, there was a particular post that was put up about Black Lives Matter and its founders, and how Black Lives Matter has pretty much become a compromised organization. And I agree with that. But I commented on the post, and I guess because I didn't say what I had to say in a way that the person wanted me to say it, I was told that I was stupid and that my comment was stupid and I didn't know what I was talking about. Now, had this particular young lady taken the time to actually read to comprehend what it is that I was saying, she would have seen that we were basically saying the same thing, just in a different way. But she already had a bias against what I was saying, and she didn't care to understand me. So that's something that a lot of us are guilty of, myself included. And I feel like we need to really train ourselves to not do that, because in many situations we are missing out on information that could potentially save our lives because we're failing to be able to accept who the person is providing that information. And I'm going to use our president, Donald Trump, as an example. And please don't have a knee-jerk reaction because I said Donald Trump. Just hear me out. As it relates to Donald Trump and the media, I have to agree with Donald Trump on a lot of things, even though I don't even necessarily support Donald Trump. I feel like Donald Trump has done a lot of things to not make himself look so favorable in the public's eyes, and so it's understandable why people want to tune him out every time he opens his mouth. But what I've come to realize is that I'm doing myself a disservice by not receiving the message because I don't like the messenger. And with Donald Trump, with a lot that he's saying about the media is very, very true. With me observing the media, I see how the media is able to twist words. They're able to manipulate talking points. They're able to manipulate headlines to frame a narrative to get the masses of people to dislike him. And, I witnessed that firsthand by just clicking on articles and reading the articles in its entirety and not just looking at the headline. Because someone can put out a news article or someone can put up a headline, and if you don't read the details of that headline, you'll be spreading misinformation to people because you didn't take out the time to get the full story behind the headline. And the media in particular is counting on us to do that. The media is counting on us to not look deeper and explore a lot of this stuff that they're putting out here to us. Because the average person, unfortunately, especially in the current society that we live in, it's a microwave society. People want information quickly. A lot of times people don't want to take out the time to read. So in that situation, it's very, very easy for the media to be able to form a narrative for us because we're not doing our due diligence to follow up on anything that the media is telling us. And I'm not saying that that's everyone, but there's a lot of people that can be manipulated and misinformed because they don't want to take out the time to do independent research. They don't want to take out the time to think for themselves. And I'm telling you right now, you are doing yourself a great disservice if you don't want to be an independent thinker and do research for yourself. A real quick story. Back in 2008 when we found out Obama was going to be the nominee for the Democratic ticket. We were, myself, I can speak for myself, and I think that many other people were very, very excited about, the possibility of us having a black president. It was something that we had never seen. So a lot of us were very excited about that. Myself, I can speak for me, I went hard. I was campaigning, I was knocking on doors, I was doing everything that I could within my power to get him in that White House. And I went to one door. It was a young black female. And we had the nerve to ask her who she was going to vote for. And she was like, I don't know. We looked at her like she had 6 heads because we were like, how could you not know? It's a black man running for president. How could you not be voting for him? And, she was just like, I don't know who I'm voting for. I haven't made up my mind. I don't know enough about him to say I'm voting for him. And immediately I thought to myself, like, dang, she's ignorant. Not understanding that she was giving herself the time to know who it is she was voting for. And I'm going to admit, I didn't do a lot of research on Obama. Just him being able to be a well-spoken man and, him being black, that wasn't the only determining factor. I felt like he was educated and I felt like he was qualified. So I was like, he's getting my vote. I didn't do too much research on his policies or anything. I was all in saying that I was going to vote for him. Meanwhile, there was a lot of information coming out, documentaries about him, and there was people warning us like, this man is not who he's portraying himself as. And I never took out the time to look into that because I was like, what are they talking about? Like, this is just, once again, the media trying to put up an image and, keep a black man down. That's what I was thinking. So me already having my mind made up, not doing any type of independent research, I voted for him. Lo and behold, by the time 2012 came around, I had learned so much about Obama that I had not known before, and I was so shocked because I was like, he had really done some messed up things throughout his presidency. He abused his powers in many ways that a lot of us, still don't know to this day. And that's why I'm saying I would encourage people to have an independent thought about what it is that we see in the media and how we process information, because once the media has the power to control the way that we think, then ultimately they're controlling every facet of our lives. Like, we have to be able to at least have the power to think for ourselves. We cannot allow the media to think for us. So getting back to Facebook for 1 second, because all week long I've been very, very active on Facebook. And it was kind of discouraging for me to see so many people arguing and not wanting to hear each other and just shouting each other down. People making posts about, I'm not even talking to you, I'm going to block you, if you're saying something that I don't want to hear. And I was thinking to myself, like, in this very moment, when everybody is pretty much talking to each other, pretty much focusing on a particular situation, and everybody's attention is really heavily online right now, we're missing opportunities that we can have to be able to learn from each other because we're not willing to be unbiased about the way we receive information. And a large majority of that has to do with the way the media presents the information to us. The media can make anybody look whatever kind of way they want them to look. And I think that that's something that we don't really take the time to sit down and process, that this entity is really so powerful that it can literally shape the way you think. You'll find yourself not even really thinking for yourself. And as you guys can see in the thumbnail, I use Malcolm X. I use one of his quotes because regardless of what people say, Malcolm X was a very brilliant man. And he had been warning us about the media for the longest. And, even with him, the media portrayed him as this violent man who was a racist, and that was the furthest from the truth. If you have done any type of independent research on Malcolm X, you know that Malcolm X was not a violent man, and the media used his stance on self-defense to flip that and say he was violent, which Malcolm X made it extremely clear where he stood. He said that we will never attack anyone, but if anyone attacks us, we're going to try to see to it that they don't attack anyone else. So he was pretty much preaching self-defense, not just unwarranted violence. But there are so many people till this day that has this picture in their mind about Malcolm X that he was a violent person and that he just wanted to attack white people. And it was a horrendous lie. So, I really, really want to encourage people to do your own independent research. The media doesn't have any incentive to tell you the truth because the entities that control the media are very, very powerful. Many of these people you will never hear of in your lifetime because they live in secrecy and they don't want to make their presence known because it's much easier for them to hide in the shadows and be able to manipulate world affairs because no one knows who in the hell these people are. So, I can't drive this point home anymore. I really, really want to encourage everyone to please just take out some time to think for yourself. Do your own independent research and understand that there are entities that have, unlimited amounts of power and the money and the resources to control the media and have their narrative be what is in rotation in the news cycle over and over again. And you continue to have this information driven into your mind, so much so to the point that even if it doesn't make any sense to you, you begin to defy your own logic and common sense because you continue to see this over and over again. And some people just don't, even utilize common sense because they trust and believe that these powerful entities won't lie to them, and that's just not the case. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look at the comments. I'm not going to stay on here too much longer. Lily J says, that is true. We don't always have to agree with someone's opinion or views, but we can hear it and be respectful and cordial towards one another. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that what was missing in a lot of what I've seen, on different social media platforms, Facebook in particular, I think that what was missing from a lot of these conversations was respect. Like I said, the young lady that I was interacting with, she immediately started attacking me and telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm stupid. And it's like, how do you even come into the conversation like that? How do you enter the conversation hurling insults at a complete stranger? So, I completely agree with what Lily said. We need to respect each other and we need to listen with an open ear. Jennifer Jones says yes. Jennifer Jones said, I was excited and I believe in him and his hope and change. I guess she's referring to Obama. And then Jennifer Jones went on to say, I am so ashamed for not doing my due diligence. Well, a lot of us got caught up in that, Jennifer. A lot of us were excited because Obama's message was very encouraging. It was uplifting. It was everything that we wanted to hear. And I think that he knew that with his charisma, his elegance, and everything, that he would be able to, gain the minds of the masses, and he successfully did that. I'm not going to go into everything that is going on with Obama right now, But I would encourage everyone to do their research because Obama is in big trouble right now, for those of you who don't know. Him and Hillary Clinton, they're in hot water. And a lot of people don't know that. So that's another thing. The media, you would think a former president and a former Secretary of State being under fire right now would be headline news. But the media is only going to put out there what it is that they want you to see that fits into their narrative. So I would encourage everyone to do their own independent research and find out what is going on in politics right now, because there are plenty of political scandals going on out here that we're just not privy of because we're paying attention to what is on the surface, and we have to go beneath the surface to find the truth. Miss Arquay says, a middle school child in my classroom did a research project on him. That's the only reason I knew of him. Miss Arquay, who are you referring to when you say that's the only reason I knew of him? Ms. Arquay also says, all candidates are just people and politicians aren't known to be of high moral or ethical fiber. When we vote, I believe we try to choose the lesser of the evils. It's never going to be perfect. You know what? That's a very hard position for people to be in. And it saddens me that, people have to go into the voting booth with the mindset that I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils. I pray that I live to see the day where that's not a choice. I pray to see the day that we can go in there and vote for someone who has an agenda in mind that is strictly for the people. That is a very, very hard situation to be in, Ms. Arquay, because if I have to choose between evil and evil, I'm not really sure that I even want to make a choice. Ms. Arquay also says, I don't believe that we expect a country that wasn't built for us to have politics that benefit us no matter who is in office. This country was built by us, not for us. Once again, that's very, very true. When we go to vote, especially as a black person, sometimes it's like a double-edged sword because a lot of the policies don't really include us. They use catchy terms like people of color, minorities, but they don't really ever have anything specifically for the black community, which is a problem within itself. But how we're going to have to combat that, especially if we're going to continue to vote, we need to bring the agenda to the candidate that we support, and we need to force them to see it through, how other communities do. They get an agenda together, and they make the politicians see it out. And I think that black people need to become a little bit more politically educated so we can see how the voting process really works. Because honestly, a lot of us vote out of fear and, tradition. Urban Country Living says, hey, ladies and gentlemen, she will respond. Oh, I guess he's speaking for me. Ms. Arquay says, I heard about it. I'm not particularly sure what you're talking about, Ms. Arquay, because I'm reading the comments after I've been running my mouth for a little while. I'm not sure if you're talking about the situation with Obama and Hillary. It's been surfacing, it's been making its rounds on social media. There hasn't been very much coverage on it from the mainstream media, and there's very specific reasons for that. That's why I'm encouraging people to know who is controlling the information that we are getting sent to us through these airwaves on a daily basis. Ms. Arquay says the Epstein situation. Something, to be perfectly honest with you, I know about the Epstein situation, but I haven't done a lot of research on it. I know that there's a documentary on Netflix that I plan on watching whenever I get some time to watch it. But that situation with Epstein was, it's a lot bigger than people might actually think it is. And there's a lot more people involved. And that could be the reason why he was silenced. Some people say that he's dead. And some people say that they just moved him somewhere else. So I really don't know what happened to him. but I know that he was taken out of the spotlight because a lot of people were gonna end up going down with him. Lily J says, you're right. If we could implement the golden rule, life would be effortless. We do have to think for ourselves, and people don't always see that. I encourage people to look beyond what we hear and what we see. Lily J also says, fear is another way that keeps people from being able to think clearly for themselves. And that is very, very true. Because when you think about what happened with the pandemic that we're still in, but things are slowly starting to clear up. When you think about what happened with COVID-19 and how the media was on a continuous fear campaign, and it did confuse a lot of people. A lot of people didn't know what to think, and there was so much information coming at us all at once. I called it chaos and confusion, because when everything's chaotic and you're in a state of fear, you do not have the time all the time to make a concise decision. And if you're new to the channel, I have my very first video that I put on the channel. I went into detail about, the fear-mongering that happened with COVID and how people were pretty much caught in a rock between a hard place, because it's like you didn't want to be irresponsible and not go along with what you were being told. But at the same time, I feel like some people, myself included, we felt like there was just something about that wasn't sitting right with us. And, I started to look deeper into it, and I questioned it, and I found out things about that entire situation that I encourage all of you to go and look up on, because I'm telling you right now, your mind will be blown. So, if there isn't any more comments, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I didn't want to be on too long tonight. I wanted everybody to, get to your Friday night. But before I go, I do want to encourage everyone to watch a documentary that I seen. Don't be alarmed. It is involving Donald Trump somewhat. And it's on skynews.com.au, which is a Australian news network. Again, it's skynews.com.au. And the documentary is maybe about 40 minutes long, and it's called Donald Trump versus the Deep State. I watched this documentary, and I was very happy that I watched it, because it goes more into what we're talking about this evening with media manipulation. And I encourage everybody, like I said before, I encourage you all to listen to information from wherever you can get it. I'm not saying that you need to go along with everything you hear, especially if you haven't had the time to look into it for yourself and, have discernment and make decisions based on common sense and logic. My thing that I do is I follow patterns, because, if somebody keeps doing something over and over again, usually it's going to reveal itself. So I encourage everyone to watch this documentary. I'm not even going to talk about anything in it, because I want everyone to go into it with an unbiased mind and just listen to the information. Forget who they're talking about. Just listen to that documentary to get the information. You don't have to like the people who's in it, but just listen to it and absorb the information and do some independent research. I guarantee you, this is how I feel. I believe that once you watch it, you will see that a lot of what we were being told was true, and we may not have listened because we didn't like the person who was saying it. So once again, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe. Please thumbs up the video and share it. Also, I have an email address if anybody would like to send a particular topic that they want to discuss. That email is Shelley's Truth, that's SHELLEY, truth@gmail.com. Thank you all for being here, and have a good night.